WWE has produced not only many of the biggest stars in wrestling history, but in Hollywood as well. With their superstar fortunes, they can all buy big enough homes for them to fit through the door. Spoiler alert, pretty much all of them live in Florida. WWE stars just do not get any bigger than Dwayne The Rock Johnson. He and his signature eyebrow were wrestling royalty for quite a while there, with 10 world champions under his belt, literally. Then he slowly started making his way into Hollywood with roles like the Scorpion King. Once he made it into Fast 5, however, his big screen star power was undeniable. Today, The Rock is just shy of billionaire status with a huge net worth of $800 million. Johnson owns a home in Beverly Hills, and it is big and bold as you might expect. It was actually built by legendary rocker Alex Van Halen and then purchased again by Paul Reiser. The home features several incredibly cozy rooms and an uncozy looking gym that gets him into that notorious Hollywood shape. He's also well known for acquiring properties all over the world. That includes a huge $3.4 million ranch-style home in Miami. Not only does he own those homes, but he actually bought a pretty nice mansion for his mother as well. A $3.48 million mansion in Encino. Talk about a good son. His next big Hollywood gambit is finally putting on some tights to play the sort of superhero Black Adam. Who knows, maybe the DCEU will be enough to push him into the 3 Club for good. You can't say the man doesn't work hard enough for it. John Cena is a wrestling superstar with $60 million. After struggling to truly prove himself in Hollywood, he had 2 big back-to-back roles in The Suicide Squad as Peacemaker and F9 as Dom Toretto's brother. He bought a mansion in Miami shortly after his WWE introduction for $525,000. It is as big and bold as John Cena is, despite the comparably low price compared to several other stars of his caliber. Now you can see why he'd be so happy with the place. This home has become legendary for several of its high-profile amenities. The nicest private pool I've ever seen in my life. It's got waterfalls, rock falls, and everything else in between. Not only that, but it features his legendary cigar room that he brings all of his closest friends to. It is one of the most famous man caves ever built. Honestly though, I think he deserves an even fancier mansion for the 650 wishes he's made with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. A record, by the way. Dave Bautista has had an incredible ride in Hollywood for quite a while now. So much so that many might not even remember that he used to be a wrestler. Nowadays, you may know him more for his roles in Dune, Blade Runner 2049, Army of the Dead, and most importantly, Drax in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, starting in 2014 with Guardians of the Galaxy. All of this success in and out of the ring has netted him $16 million. Bautista is not exactly the kind of guy you'd expect. He loves collecting vintage lunchboxes, for instance. Not exactly what you'd expect for a jacked up dude like him. Well, his home is just as unexpected. It is clean. This large Tampa property is a 4,000 square foot contemporary style place that sits on 2.4 acres. The home features 3 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. What each and every room features are really high ceilings, incredibly shiny surfaces, big open spaces, and a very simplistic color scheme. In October of 2021, he gave Men's Health a tour of his 2 favorite features, his extraordinary gym and his equally extraordinary fridge. We don't know exactly how much he paid for this home, but considering the fact that he was willing to pay $5,000 for information on who abused the dog he adopted, shows that he's certainly willing to throw cash around. Hope that dog likes novelty lunchboxes. In many ways, all WWE stars are walking behind Hulk Hogan and his superstardom through the 80s and to today. His trademark style and 6 WWE championships have rocketed him to the kind of fame that few could ever hope to achieve. Today he's worth upwards of $25 million. Back in the day, though, he was worth well over $100 million. Aging stars rarely get to hold on to that kind of wealth, nor do they always get to keep their houses. He has been known for living in his massive mansion in, you guessed it, Florida. Back in the peak of his powers, he was actually able to clear off the existing mansion just so he could build his own from the ground up. He originally put it up for $25 million in 2006, but the housing crisis really put the hurt on the Hulkster, and he ended up selling it for, get this, $6.2 million in 2012. That is a bigger hit than any he ever took in the ring. Still, he bounced back in a $3.3 million Clearwater Beach, Florida property. The 5,000 square foot home features 5 bedrooms, 8 full bathrooms, a gym, and a pool with waterfalls. Most notably, it was the shooting location for his reality show, Hogan Knows Best. Stone Cold Steve Austin is a wrestler through and through. It earned him a pretty sizable fortune of $30 million. He famously purchased not one but 2 neighboring homes in the Marina del Rey, California area. The larger 2,700 square foot home he purchased in 2007 for $2 million, while the smaller neighboring home was picked up a decade later for $1.4 million. They are both classy, down-to-earth spots with pools, open spaces, and gorgeous kitchens. Truthfully though, for a guy like him, these homes are both kind of basic. I mean, he is Stone Cold Steve Austin. Still, despite his all-time legend status, I think there's room in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for one more legendary wrestler. Tell me he doesn't look just like the Hulk's favorite punching bag, the Absorbing Man. Perhaps no one else has influenced the world of professional wrestling more than Vince McMahon. Not only was he the boss behind the scenes, but he was wrestling's most notorious villain in the ring. Funnily enough, he was even more villainous out of the ring. Both his virtues in the organization and his vicious business tactics made him much richer than most of the actual talent, with a net worth of $2.6 billion. While there are conflicting reports that he owns a $32 million mansion in Connecticut that he's trying to sell, there's no doubt that he's got a sweet place in the state beloved by all professional wrestlers. Florida! He's got a condo in the Excelsior in Boca Raton. This building is as classy gets, with a gorgeous view of the ocean. Places in this building can go for upwards of $6 million. It's a perfect spot for staring off into the distance while you swirl a whiskey and plan evil plans for your wrestling underlings. You know, in retrospect, if you're a shady dude who is involved in a ton of nefarious activities, maybe casting yourself as a shady dude who is involved in a ton of nefarious activities wasn't the best cover. I gotta be honest, when it comes to wrestlers, I've always been the biggest fan of The Undertaker. He's a legend, and his ability to resurrect himself as dead man is just as cool as it gets. While he's never hit it big in Hollywood like several of his peers have, he doesn't seem to be too upset about it. Mark William Calloway, as he is known outside of the ring, has gained a fortune of $17 million. Netflix might want to convince you that The Undertaker lives in a cool haunted mansion, but I'm sorry to say, that is not the case. His home in Austin, Texas is actually pretty mundane looking. Funny story though, this was a home actually rented to Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. While you might think his real estate holdings are all graveyards and haunted mansions, he actually buys pretty normal buildings with his business partner, Scott Everhart, such as a $2.7 million building, the Callahart otherwise known as The Undertaker's retirement plan. Honestly, I think the state of Florida should just give mansions away to every WWE superstar on the rise. It would certainly save time.